Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Apportionment for Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. Ms. Stephanie Green, please call the roll.
Mayor Jones,
Present.
Comptroller Green,
Here.
President Green,
Present.
all here.
Great. We will review our agenda items presented for the first time. Item number 1, request from the Comptroller's Office for approval of contracts and leases for various city departments as listed on Exhibit A. Item number 2, request from the Mayor's Office Director of Operations for approval to pay an invoice in the amount of $15,000 to the African American Mayors Association Incorporated for fiscal year 24 annual membership dues from Fund 1000, Business Function 10, Department 190,000, account 565,600. Item number 3, request from the Mayor's Office Director of Operations for approval to pay an invoice in the amount of $12,242 to the United States Conference of Mayors for fiscal year 24 annual membership from Fund 1000, Business Function 10, Department 190,000, account 565,600. Item number 4, request from the Registrar's Office for approval of the authorization to securely destroy listed documents currently stored in City Hall storage room number 31 that have reached their retention period for disposal and are eligible for destruction in accordance with the state of Missouri record retention requirements. Item number 5, request from the Director of Airports for approval of board bill number to be determined. This ordinance authorizes the execution of Airport Police Department new hire agreement that requires reimbursement to the airport for the cost of training certain signees who do not accept a position or who leave their commission within 3 years. Item number 6, request from the Director of Health for approval of board bill number to be determined. This ordinance authorizes the receipt of the Public Health Emergency Response Grant Award in the amount of $757,191.35 from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services to establish, expand, train, and sustain a public health workforce to support COVID-19 prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery initiatives. Item number 7, request from the St. Louis Agency on Training and Employment Executive Director for approval of board bill number 68. This ordinance authorizes the receipt of the United States Department of Labor Grant Award in the amount of $1,244,503 to support the enrollment of 65 participants in the Youth Build program to provide them with employment and training resources to include obtaining their high school equivalency and gaining an industry recognized certification. Item number 8, request from the Public Safety Director for approval to add 2 ARPA funded limited term grant administrator positions to the City Emergency Management Agency table of organization. Item number 9, request from the President of the Board of Aldermen for approval of board bill number 51. This ordinance authorizes the annual appropriation from the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, account 1, in the amount of $12,506,000 to the Bi-State Development Agency for fiscal year 2024. Item number 10, request from the President of the Board of Aldermen for approval of board bill number 52. This ordinance authorizes the annual appropriation from the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, account 2, in the amount of $12,506,000 to the Bi-State Development Agency for fiscal year 2024. Item number 11, request from the President of the Board of Aldermen for approval of board bill number 53. This ordinance authorizes the annual appropriation from the City Transportation Trust Fund in the amount of $24,088,000 to the Bi-State Development Agency for fiscal year 2024. Item number 12, request from the Budget Director for approval of the response to the Aldermanic Budget and Public Employees Committee letter dated June 8th, 2023. Excuse me. regarding proposed amendments and other changes to Board Bill number 1 for fiscal year 2024. Item number 13, request from the Mayor's Office, Director of Operations for approval of Board Bill number 59. This ordinance establishes a right to counsel program for tenants facing eviction and appropriates an initial cost of $285,000 to begin the program. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Ms. Stephanie Green, please call the roll.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Comptroller Green. Aye. President Green,
Aye.
all in favor.
Great. Also, at this time, I will turn it over to Paul Payne to discuss agenda item number 12 for proposed amendments to Board Bill 1, which is the budget for fiscal year 2024. Paul?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the Board of B&A. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pull up on screen the proposed amendments. And hopefully everyone can see those.
Yes.
Okay. The Budget Committee had sent a request for 2 additional items to the budget amounting to $400,000. One was for the traffic division for repairing down light poles, another for additional additional supplies to the street division for making street repairs. There were no offsetting cuts, so basically that was we're asking us to scour and look around for some reductions. And so what this does is, so 1A and 1B are the 2 additions. 1C is a reduction in 2 accounts in the citywide accounts, one of them being unemployment comp. It currently is budgeted at about $500,000. In years when we're cutting budgets, it's been over $400,000, but recently it's tracked lower, and certainly this year it's lower. So we believe that we can reduce that by $250,000 and should be okay. And then the other item is the assessor subsidies reduced by $150,000. They have also had some vacancies this year. Typically, the assessor's office is funded both by its own revenues and subsidy by the general fund. And given that they're underspending this year, we figured that they can get by with that amount. So that's a $400,000 reduction, and that addresses those 2 increases. Now, there were some other proposed changes along the way throughout this process, some of which are changes in personnel table, which have no impact on the budget. It's just swapping out positions, others which have some minor changes in the budget. Item 2 is the controller's office is adding a fiscal operations support manager and deleting an accounting manager position. That's no dollar change. Soulard Market, that was a position title change only to ensure that that is classified as a Soulard Market manager position that we added this year. The 4A, 4B, and 4C, the Parks Division had a couple items that came up in budget hearings regarding particularly contractual mowing. They didn't have enough for their fairground park contract. That was about a $50,000 shortfall there. And then they also had they had asked for a full-time messenger position. We didn't allow for that, but they did request a reinstatement of the per performance messenger position. So that is done at a $68,000 increase in their budget. Human Services had an accountant position that was previously grant funded, but it is a filled position and it was necessary for the operations of that department. That's an $81,000 increase. And the offsetting reduction was that line item of professional services that was in the Director of Public Safety. That's budgeted at $500,000. We're still looking at how that's going to be implemented, but we figure that leaves them with $350,000 for that program. In the Department of Health, there were a number of positions being added and deleted. One of those particularly came up in budget hearings where the health director had mentioned a receptionist. So they're adding 1 health service manager and 1 receptionist and deleting a public health service program rep. And that's a net increase of $90,000. There's a couple adds and deletions in 5B with no dollar change. And then there's an offsetting reduction in Division 719 of deleting 1 health services manager. So those basically not balance each other out. Item number 6 was the Equitable Relief Utility Tax Fund. That is something that's included each year in the budget, but with the request, it was omitted. So we wanted to make sure that fund was budgeted for. These are funds we receive from utility tax from the utility companies to help offset those needing assistance with utility payments. And so that needs to be included in the budget. CDA also had a number of positions that they were adding and deleting in their budget, as well as a reduction of professional services to offset the increase. And so that was a no dollar change in their overall budget. The health department also had a couple of positions, or actually 3 positions in their grant funds that they wanted to continue to authorize, and that's item number 8. So that's an increase there of 194,000, but that is in the health grant funds. And finally, the airport notified us that they had omitted from their original budget request payments on debt service for new bonds that were issued the current year, this spring, 2023 bonds at the airport. Revenues were there to cover these payments, but it was important to make sure that the debt service payments were included in the budget. And that was a $4,981,000 item. And that is the sum total of all the proposed changes.
Right. Any questions for Paul? Okay, seeing none, and I believe we have already included the changes to the budget in our original vote. Is there any other business to discuss?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'd like to take a moment at this time to comment on this weekend's events, among others, that included gun violence. I wanted to first of all say that I supported the comments you made, Madam Mayor, regarding the gun violence in our city just this past weekend, but I support pursuing something, I guess, that would help us. You mentioned, as well as the chief of police mentioned, that the state legislation needs to take the matter of gun safety seriously and to pass those gun safety laws that mirror the federal government. And I wanted to make that statement here and offer perhaps that our local legislature, the Board of Aldermen, would perhaps adopt a resolution that that's regarding that same matter, and asking that we all join together, both the Board of Aldermen with the Board of E&A and perhaps other citywide elected officials, to say with a loud voice that we are together when we ask that the state legislations would pass gun safety laws that mirror those of the federal government. I wanted to make that statement, and I also want to go a step further and just say that perhaps joining the voices of public officials, the elected officials, if the Board of Aldermen would want to perhaps take up the matter further and pass an ordinance that would give citywide voters to put a public voice to the matter, speaking in the same voice, saying that we as a city want our state legislators to pass those very important gun safety laws for the safety of our children, the safety of our citizens. So I just wanted to offer those items. You know, we have been a chorus speaking in the same rhythm for many, many months. And it's time that maybe we put additional resources to that and pass local legislation that gives the public a voice to add to ours.
May I comment?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Comptroller. I am in agreement, and I think that we can definitely work on a resolution that does that. I think we should also state in that if the Missouri General Assembly is not willing to act, then at minimum, give us back the local authority to be able to act ourselves. And I also do like the idea of, even if it's a non-binding vote, to take it up to the residents of the city, so that Jefferson City can hear louder the calls that we are hearing here in the city of St. Louis to enact some common sense gun legislation. And so I am more than willing to work with your office on that and get something passed. And at the same time, the Board of Aldermen and my staff, and I know the mayor's staff, continue to evaluate everything that we can do locally, legally to enact changes and to enact some gun legislation. And we'll continue to do so, not just in light of last week's, this past weekend's tragedy, as we're finding these tragedies are too often an occurrence in our community. And they look forward to working in partnership with you on this, continue to work in partnership with the mayor's office in addressing this very critical issue for our residents.
I also echo the sentiments that have already been expressed. And I will continue to also call for our regional leaders to meet us upstream, to make sure that we have safe and fun activities for our youth so they don't have to resort to private parties, unsanctioned events in spaces that are not built for them to have such for parties. And we'll be calling on our region's leaders to match or beat our efforts in the city to open our rec centers, to open spaces for our young people to have fun with their friends and be safe, and to continue to grow and learn. That is our responsibility to our young people. If right now we realize that we can't get guns out of our city, so I think that we can do our best by coming together to try to do whatever we can to steer our young people away from lives of crime. So we will continue to work on both of these things. And hopefully we can meet somewhere in the middle in the future. So I want to thank you, Madam Comptroller, Madam President, for your partnership and for your support through a really difficult time in our city. This is our second mass shooting in less than 12 months. And this is a wake-up call for us to put our arms around our children, whether we gave birth to them or not. So again, I want to thank you all for your expressions and look forward to working with you on our next steps.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no other business to discuss, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you and have a great afternoon.